Hi, this is Evan Jones looking at Preptest 63 Game 4 video explanation. This is the balls and boxes game, and this kind of game, it's well, first of all, it's probably the silliest premise for a game ever. But anyways, it's kind of proof that the LSAT does evolve over time, because this is a bit novel in terms of the rules that you see. I hadn't encountered anything exactly like this, so it it takes some mental flexibility if you encounter something like this, but it's nothing that's too far off from just normal rules that we've worked with before. So let's take a look. Okay, so for the setup, this is a linear game that's turned on its side. And visually, whenever the LSAT is talking about things in terms of up and down, I find it's really best to emulate this. Yes, you could flatten it out and say to yourself, that this is like the lowest and this is the highest. But I think mentally you're making less work for yourself if you do what they do. And in this case, they're talking about 6 being the highest, so I've got that stacked up over box 1 down here. And within these boxes, we have these colored balls, green, red, and white, and then that gives us our basic setup. So for the rules, getting to the rules, we've got each of these boxes is holding just one ball. And then more specifically, we've got more red balls than white balls. So how you write that, at this point, you don't really know how that's going to play out. So you just do more red than white. And that's the start of the process of memorizing that rule. Okay, and then there's a box containing a green ball that is lower than in the stack than any containing a red ball. So how do you write that? This is what I was talking about in the intro when I was saying that there's some pretty funky rules in here. What I do is just emulate visually how it's going to look. You've got a red above a green, okay, and that's at least 1. So AL1. And then down below, I add an extra reminder that no reds can go below that green. And, at this point, technically, there could be some other red and green, that you see that's like this. But you have to have at least one where you get these conditions satisfied. So you're going to have one thing in the diagram that looks like this. All the reds above it, green, no reds below it. So keep that in mind. And then our final rule here, there is a white ball in a box that is immediately below a box that contains a green ball. So we have 1 green and white. And since they're in boxes already, I like to just put it into boxes. So visually it works out for me that those two are right together. There's a little chunk that I'm putting right into here. And you should always see how rules link up, right? So we know now there's at least 1 white in here, and that means we've got at least 2 reds. So AL2 reds. Okay, so bear that in mind when you're figuring out distributions later. That's going to be a majorly important rule. Okay, with that, we're ready to go on to doing the problems. For 18, this game jumps right in and skips an acceptability question, which is more and more common, so don't get too surprised when you see that. And what's going on here, we've got exactly 2 white balls, no more, no less. And what's that going to mean for our game? We got to figure out here which of the boxes could contain a green ball in this situation. So what I do is I see that I've got 2 whites, and then following the rules here, I need to have more reds than whites. So there's at least 3 reds, keeping track of what I've got that's going to go into my setup. And then there's only 1 space remaining. Since we know we have a green, we have that green somewhere. And then, so what can I do with that? It's giving me all these options for boxes, where I can fit a green. And I'm figuring it's pretty limited because this green has to be below every single one of these reds. So I just start with an example, getting that in. Red, 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 white, and then green and white. And this is fine here, so I take a look. Is box 2 for the green an option? No, it's not. So I want to make a modification to this somehow. And I see that it'd be okay to just have green and white there, and then your remaining white down here. So, and then the remaining reds stack up here, and then you can take a look and you've satisfied all the conditions. You've got your green-white box, you've got more reds than white, and you've got this red, green, no reds below it set up. So this is fine. It's okay to get a green into box 3, and that gives us our answer, B. So we're on to 19. I left this acceptable order off to the side for future use in case we need to look at it for anything. And now we're looking at 19, and we've got green balls in box 5 and 6. So start off just writing a diagram with that condition satisfied. And immediately here, you know, since we do have at least 2 reds always, right? So keep track of what your remaining things that you need to have are. And then we're going to need a green below that. So all that's left is this green and white box. So our remaining game pieces that we have to put into here are, sorry, I've drawn that wrong, are our green and white box and these 2 reds. So this game is all about keeping track of what remaining pieces you have that can go into these spots given these rules. Now it's asking us what could be true in this situation. Well, we can go even further than this, right? Because we absolutely have to have these reds be above this 1 green. So this is now fully determined, and it's very easy with this setup to see which answer is correct. So A, could we have a red ball in box 1 and 4? No, not possible at all. It's white down there. B, red ball in 2 and 4. 2 and 4. Nope, need to have a green in 2, so that's gone. And then C, there's a white ball in box 1. Yeah, that could be true. In fact, it must be true. So that's the right answer. So medium toughish problem. Good warm up for what's coming. Let's move on to 20. Question 20 is a tough question. It's just asking you about some condition that applies to the entire game. And it's asking which box is a box where there has to be at least one other box that has the same color. You know, and I think there's a big payout here if you're able to do this quickly by using intuition. And I was able to do it, so let me see if I can explain my thought process at all. Well, the bottom looks really flexible, right? So it's sort of easy to imagine a setup where you just have a bunch of reds and then, you know, the green and the white switching around in position in there. But what's always the case, up top, you know, if you have something up top here, it looks like it's going to have to show up one more time. You know, so I'd be looking at boxes 5 and 6, but especially I was thinking let's try 6 first. So if you have red up here, you know automatically you need some other red box, right? And that's basically what this question is asking. Like, where is something else going to be required in the game? And if you have white up here, likewise, you always have this GW box somewhere else. And you can't have the GW box be at the top, right? Because there's no 7th spot. That's just the top of the game board. So you definitely, if you have a white up top, you need to have a white somewhere else. Similarly, if you have a green up at the top in the 6th spot, you need to have another green to satisfy this condition that there is at least one green that's below all the other reds. You know, so having that intuition that the 6th spot would be best and trying that out first is really going to save a lot of time. And it leaves us with E, the correct answer. There's plenty of slower ways to get to this problem by doing trial and error. However, it's not going to really help out if you weren't seeing a good way to solve this question right away, this would have been an excellent candidate to circle and skip and only do at the end if you have time, which is a very frequent strategy that even very good test takers employ. If you're not seeing something, don't swim around and like tread water forever trying to solve it. Go and get the points that lie on the other side of that, and come back if you've got time. If not, just put in a guess answer. So this would be a great question to skip if you're struggling. Question 21 similarly has a pretty big payout if you can use your intuition. It's asking, again, just something that must be true at all times in the game. And you kind of scan, the proper strategy here is to scan through the answer choices and look for something promising. And when I was doing that, I looked at A and I was like, must it be true that there's a green ball lower than box 4? Well, I looked at my prior work here, and in both these situations, yeah, that was true. And it just seems like it's something that has to be the case. So because we know, red and green, there's always one green that's at least below these two reds. So what I tried to do was, can I get it higher? Can I get it into box 4? So I start out with a red, because I know I need at least 2 of them. And then I'm trying to get this green into box 4. And then I get a white in here. And then suddenly I'm out of things to put in this box. If I can't put a green in here, I have to put 2 whites. And that violates my rule about more reds than whites. And if I try and put a green and a white, well, then I've got a green lower than box 4. So yeah, you always have to have one in there. So again, big payout for having intuition that allows you to test a more promising candidate answer first. And that leads to A. If not, if you say just started trying the answers, random trial and error, you would have gotten A right away too, but that's a matter of luck that A's there and it's the first one you try. Better to scan for candidates. And here, the green ball lower than 4 is clearly the best candidate answer to try first. Question 22 gives us red balls in box 2 and 3. You can immediately put a green in down below it because you know there has to be one. And then what's remaining, again, this is a similar process to what we did earlier. You want to take stock of what's left. We know we have to get the green and white block in here still because we couldn't have it below. And then there's a lot of flexibility remaining as to what you do there. You can't, you've got 3 spots. You cannot use another white because then you would violate the more red than whites rule. But other than that, you should be able to have another green and another red up top there. So with this, I'm seeing that there's a lot of flexibility remaining for these last spots. So I'm just going to go to the answers and see if I can identify one that's good. So there's a red ball in box 1. No, has to be a green down there. So A is gone. B, white ball in box 1. No, same reason, need a green in there, so that's gone. And then when I get to C, green ball in box 4. Is that possible? Yeah, we talked about how green was the other thing that we could have up there. So we'd have green, white, green, red, red. We've satisfied all our rules and we're fine. So C is the correct answer to 22. 23 has box 2, 3, and 4 is all the same color. So I draw my mini diagram, and I'm able to see right away that if it was all whites, that would be impossible, because then we couldn't get more reds than whites. So that's out. So I at least just first try it with all reds. And then I throw my required green box down there. And then right next to that, I'm going to try it with all greens. And then I see, if both of these are possible from here is my main strategy at this point. So I need to have my white and green box here. So that's done. And that looks like perfectly legitimate, right? And then I need my white and green box here. I could put it in here and then just have red, red. So both of those are okay. Okay, so what must be true in both these things? Well, I'm only seeing one commonality, and that's that exactly one of the boxes contains a white ball, and that's answer choice D. So just doing those two scenarios out quickly yields the right answer. Extra bonus points if you didn't have to try this white, white, white option and realize that it violates the more red than white rule right away. And that's the game. End of a not too bad section. There wasn't any like serious doozy of a problem in there. But yeah, it was really tough stuff, except for that first game. So I hope you did well, and keep following us for more prep test explanations. We'll be coming out with one more tomorrow for prep test 64.